The Arctic Cat Wildcat has been long respected for its speed, power, and agility in the Arctic Cat side-by-side lineup. Welcome to THM, guys, and in today's episode we're going to be playing around with another Wildcat today, but this time we're going to have to dig in a little bit deeper. So in my previous episode I showed you guys how to install a brand new belt in the CVT system. And the reason I did that was because I was hoping to eliminate a small vibration I have when I engage the four-wheel drive system. I have been scouring the internet to figure out exactly what is causing that particular vibration. I haven't been able to find what it is exactly. I mean, people are saying it could have been a vibration coming from the belt. It's not that, because I have a new one. I took a little ride and it's not going away. Others are saying that it could be tires. I still have the original tires, which could be very well it, but why only in four-wheel drive? But what I'm thinking, I did find one post where they were talking about the center drive shaft, the one that goes from the rear all the way to the front to engage the four-wheel drive. It has a hanger bearing, so let's see what it does. So here's the drive shaft that I'm talking about, and this is the hanger bearing, or what they call a carrier bearing in the book. And to me, it might be suspect because I've already greased it once. It's non-serviceable, but what you can do, guys, is you can kind of disassemble it and you can pop the seal, add a little bit of grease to it. Not easy to do. If you have a needle, it works really well. But my plan, being that it is January and I'm not using it, is to replace that particular carrier bearing. And yes, I've already got started. You have to remove the seats, the center console, and the floor in order to get here. And I'm using the Arctic Cat manual, service manual, to guide me along. And you guys have probably noticed I got a piece of tape over here. I know my assistant was mentioning it. What's all that about? Well, I also just did an oil change, and what this is, it's a magnet. It does stick to the oil filter, but just in the event that it could slide off, I tape it. The reason I'm using a magnet is because, well, I want any metal particles to get caught in the filter. So that's why that's there. So my plan right now is to use my beautiful lift as a tool to try and figure out what's going on and help you guys, if you have one of these, figure out what's going on or at least understand what it could possibly be. I'm not sure if I'm ever going to find the vibration right away, but I want to lift it up, get it off the ground, fire it up, get the wheels spinning without the four-wheel drive engaged, then do the same test with the four-wheel drive engaged and see if we can determine where that vibration might be. Alright, so we're just off the ground, so I'm going to be safe to turn the wheels. I'm going to make sure that nothing is touching anything. I got to be, you got your feet away from the tires? Okay. I got to be careful too, because this is going to be spinning. Now, what I'm trying to determine, which I'm pretty positive I already know, I think this spins all the time, whether you're in two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, which again is the reason why I want to change this bearing, because when I checked it, it was rough. It was looking like it needed a change, and from what I can understand and tell here, you got to cut all of these bands off, and these are original. So there's 2,900 kilometers on this bearing that's spinning, I think, all the time. Let's find out. Oh, I turned on my wiper. There we go. Alright, so we're just in two-wheel drive here. I'm going to go and drive and see what happens. Yep. Without my seatbelt on, I got a limiter. But it doesn't matter, because even at this slow speed, hopefully you guys can hear me, but even at this slow speed, I was doing about 10 kilometers an hour according to the speedometer here. It was vibrating. So let's go bring it back to 10 kilometers an hour and see. It's going to be hard to tell or show you guys if there is vibration, but let's get it going here, and I'm just going to flick it in to four-wheel drive as it spins here. Actually hear it. That's weird. guys can see it, if there's anything I can do to show you. You know what? Maybe if I put something like this on the floor for you guys to see it vibrate. Well, you can kind of see the dirt vibrating, and it kind of goes away. So again, I don't know what's causing that, because either way, if you're in two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, I don't understand how this would cause that high-speed vibration, because I can feel the vibration being faster than what I physically see on this drive shaft. So I don't know. Either way, it just feels rough. It's a big job though. All right, go, Gav. Keep going. I'm just going to kind of look around to see if I can come up with any vibration. Everything up front here looks okay. Okay. Nope. Alright, so now we're at the back. Nothing. A little faster. Alright, so after trying it in the air and looking around, seeing what I could determine was causing that vibration, I still haven't fully determined what it might be, but I want to change that bearing out no matter what. That carrier bearing, like I said, was kind of suspect to me because it was dry when I looked at it last time. So I got away with lubricating it for about 6 months, but that's enough. It's winter. Let's do it now. So step one is I got to remove the bolts holding that front differential and slide that whole thing forward. And make sure you account for the spacer on the bottom bolt on this side, on the right side. I guess, sorry, the left side. My right side, since I'm on this one. And then we're going to take the next one out. I lubricated this one, so hopefully it'll come out nicer. There's only 2 bolts holding that whole front differential on, which is kind of good, I suppose, because it's easier to do. And I was trying to sneak the top bolt from the front out, but in the book they tell you have to remove the upper A-arm support, like the wishbone here. And I thought, well, I don't need to do that. You need to do that. So we're going to take this bolt out now, and we should be good. A little tip, guys. If you are trying to remove this bolt, you don't have to remove the steering rack to do it. What you have to do is just, I don't even know if you have to remove the boot, but I did just for extra space. Turn the wheel all the way to the right, and it's easier if you have somebody holding it that way, because then it will slide over your tie rod, but like barely. So that's how we got it out. And now I should be able to pull the bolt holding the differential, just like that. And I'll pull out the other one because I put it back in just to support it, to help that one come out. There you go. According to the book, you should just be able to grab both axles here, pull it back against the frame, and that should give us enough room to get everything out. Okay, so I've got the carrier bearing unbolted on the inside. I've cut off the clamp over on the front here, and hopefully, if everything goes well, I should be able to pull on these 2 axles and that should slide out. But it might need help. Aha, there you go. Just had to reach in there and kind of pull her back. So now that's good. That's the front half of the drive shaft is disconnected. So now I don't know, but somehow you're supposed to be able to remove this thing from the unit. But how? I'm also going to take the opportunity to like grease all this stuff, you know, because it's open. Excellent time to do it. So let's see if we can remove the drive shaft and remove the carrier bearing. Okay, this is all starting to make sense now. I mean, there's plenty of room to pull it out this way. I was looking at pulling it from the front and that wasn't going to happen. So I cut the other cable tie here, or clamp, whatever you want to call it. Oh, I'm happy. Oh man, that makes me so happy. At least I'm not doing this for nothing. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but that's some significant play. Now hopefully it's the bearing and not just inside this carrier, but anyways, let's see if we can disconnect this half of the drive shaft from the rear. I'm assuming there's going to be another. Oh, there you go. That just came apart. That was cool. And that's nicely greased. This should come right out. Okay, now with this half of the drive shaft on the bench, we can take a better look at the bearing. And I mean, first off, if I just spin this, it actually doesn't feel too bad. But if I move it back and forth, I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but there is some play like we saw earlier. So what we're gonna have to do is there's a couple of set screws, one over here, one over there, and we're gonna crack those loose, and I think it's in 1/8. Make sure that's right in there. Okay. Oh, that doesn't want to go. So looks like my Allen wrench here is looking kind of sad. It's seen better days. It's all twisted. Might have to get another one to try this. This just for fun. Do the next one here. Oh, okay, that one went okay. But I still think I should find another one because it's going to strip that out. And look at that, I even have it in a socket, which, I mean, I don't know why I don't use that often enough. I have a whole kit, so get that in there. There you go. That worked, which is good. And then there's also a circlip right over here at this end that we got to open up and remove. Pop that loose like that. And I guess from the looks of it, the bearing's going to slide this way, so I might have to cut this out too, this other clamp. But let's see here. Now they tell you that it's like the whole thing is an assembly. You can't take it apart, but I mean, it's actually, you can separate it right here, and there you go. I mean, it comes apart. Because my plan is to reuse the carrier and just replace the bearing, because I mean, I think you can do that. You might have to squeeze the carrier a little bit, or like I say, add a little bit. Some people were saying inner tubes. Again, I've been reading a lot of forums to find out where this vibration is, and some people are installing an inner tube on each half, squeezing that to, I guess, prevent the bearing from transferring some vibration through the drive shaft. And I think what I would also do is maybe put an inner tube between this and the frame, like very thin, because you don't want to take it out of alignment too much, but just something to absorb some of that vibration would be fun. I'm going to try and bring it up so you guys can see it. That is wiggling back and forth a lot more than I would like it to. So it feels okay, but like I said, I've already taken the lip off of one of these sides. I can't remember which one. And I repacked it with grease. But that only goes so far once the seal's cut, right? So it's kind of sad that you can't grease these any other way. You have to pull the lip apart, pull the seal, and it's not terrible to do. It's not in a terrible location. You don't have to do all of this to get to it. But you can guarantee I'm going to probably do like I do with all the bearings I buy and pack them with some good grease. So let's take this apart should just be able to tap it down this way and see if we can get this matched up. Ah, beautiful. Just like that. So it does have to go this way, which means I am cutting this off. There you go. Beautiful. I'm going to keep this off to the side because I want to see if I can get I'm going to keep both the sizes because I want to buy new ones. I mean, there's nothing wrong with using like a mechanical clamp or something like that, but there's something about using those ones. It's a one and done. However, they stay tight. So now we're going to slide the boot off. It's in good shape, so that's awesome. Slide off our clip and the bearing. So let's go give this a wash, see if we can find any numbers on it. Fresh out of the parts washer, it's nice and clean, and there are numbers on the lips of these, on the seals here. But have a listen to this. I mean, I didn't take anything apart. I just left it as it is, just gave it a quick wash, and this is what we hear. It's dry, and it's definitely wobbly as well. There's some play in there. So I'm happy I'm changing it. It's a bit of a chore, but I'm only in it for about 2 hours right now, I think, give or take. So I'm going to do a little bit of research, and just so you guys are, aware of the number, I'll read it out to you. It's SB, so Sierra Bravo 206. I'm not sure if anybody else has just replaced the bearing or if they're going ahead and replacing the whole carrier. I mean, I suppose it wouldn't be a bad idea, but what if I can buy a really nice bearing? I mean, something that's going to have some decent quality and I don't have to go in there, or maybe a greasable bearing. That would be pretty sweet, because then I could take that apart, give it a shot of grease from time to time, not have to do all of this over and over again. So anyways, we're going to go get something and reassemble. Hopefully figure out if that is the case as to why it's vibrating. I mean, I don't think it spins fast enough to cause the vibration it's causing, but wouldn't that be cool? All right, it's a few days later, guys, and I'm happy to report that I was able to find a bearing that's going to do perfect for this application without having to buy the expensive carrier bearing from Arctic Cat. I purchased what I consider a better quality bearing. It's made by NTN, right in Japan. No idea where these are made, but as you saw, it was a little bit worn out anyway. So I also took the time to clean up all of the parts, like the drive shaft on the bike itself, all the splines, everything, so I can make the reinstallation so much easier and quicker for you guys, so that I can get that machine out of here, outside, and move on to the next job. So having said that, I teamed up with Starknight MT for this video because, like I mentioned, once I'm done my project on the side-by-side, it's got to go outside, and I don't want to just let it sit outside in all the elements. So they shipped me a beautiful UTV cover. This one happens to fit a 2 and 3 seater machine. So let's open it up, see what it looks like in here before I have to do it outside in the cold. So the cool thing about this is it's got a couple of ties so you can keep it from flapping away in the wind, and it's all laid out in the instructions here. But the other neat part is they also have a tag for front and I believe back as well, so that you know which orientation you should throw the tarp on. This would have been way easier if the lift wasn't in the way. Look at that, guys. It fits perfect. That's amazing. I even like these stripes. It kind of gives you an idea of where it's supposed to be located on the bike. So there's one going along each side, but this is really nice. Now it's a little large for me because I actually ordered it for the Rhino, but it works for this one as well. It's perfect. This is awesome. I mean, it's a really nice material. I don't think anything is going to get through that. It's going to keep it dry out of the elements, and I think it's going to do a good job for many years. So if you're looking for a cover for your side-by-side, check out starknightmt.com. Not only do they sell covers, they also carry full windshields, front and back, doors, cargo boxes, you name it, they've got it, and it's really good stuff. But before you check out, don't forget to punch in promo code THM12 to save yourself a little bit of cash. Now we're ready to install the new bearing. Before we do, a couple of things. One, throughout the video I was talking about how these clamps, you got to cut them off. You don't have to cut them off. Actually, they're reusable. And that's kind of neat because I had gone across town trying to find some of these, and they're kind of a specific size. Other than using a mechanical clamp, which I didn't want to do because it's not very wide. These fit perfectly. I kind of bent some of these out of place, but I'm going to zoom in and show you exactly how these work because it's kind of cool. So I got the 3 that I took off, and as you can tell, this one here, it's all bent out of shape. I'm going to have to straighten it out. These 2, I managed to take apart without destroying, which is good. Hopefully I can save this guy. But the way they work is there's a little hook and then there's a little slide here. So you're going to put it back over the boot. You're going to slide that in. Then they stay closed. And then I guess I'm going to have to get a pair of, I don't know, cutters or something, and then crimp it and latch them on again, just like that. And then when you want to reuse them, you simply put your, I guess, your screwdriver in here, and then it should pop open. Now, I guess I got lucky because what I was doing is I'm pretty sure I was just using my pliers and I was squeezing the side right here, and they just, I guess they popped all 3 because I did all 3 the same way. This one, I must have caught the edge a little bit more, so I'm just going to have to straighten this one out. They are pretty stiff. They must be made of like a really good quality stainless, but they are reusable. So don't cut them. Don't throw them out, because if you do, you're going to have to buy some new ones probably right from the dealer, because I have no idea where to find these locally. Since I am zoomed in, I may as well take the opportunity to take a good look at the new bearing. Now, it's come to my attention that some of these in the past, this one obviously feels fantastic. It's great. But one thing that I've noticed, and people might be controversial on this in the comment section, I always like to check to see how much grease is inside these new bearings, because from my experience, there's not a whole bunch. And as you saw earlier, this thing is going to be constantly spinning. So I want to make sure it's properly lubricated right off the bat before we do all this work and put it in. So with a precision screwdriver, very small, if you're very careful, you can go through the lip here without damaging it. And then you can slowly and easily pry the seal up without damaging it again. Nice and easy. Then you can get your finger or your nail and then usually remove that cover. Now I haven't done any kind of damage to this here, which is perfect. And then we can have a good look at how much or how little, oh my God, how little grease is in this brand new bearing. There's like a little bit here, maybe a little bit in the bottom. Look at that, guys. That's not a lot of grease. Now, I understand they're sealed and you don't probably need a whole bunch, but in my opinion, this is not enough grease to keep these lubricated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of, good quality grease to this. My choice of grease right now, well, let me show you. So the grease I'm going to use for this bearing, not sponsored, but it's a Castrol Pyroplex Blue 1. The reason I like it is because I was reading the back here, and it says that it's actually good if the bearing or the grease ends up hitting some water. Where do I see this now? It actually says something along the lines of it will thicken up or tack up if it gets exposed to moisture. Oh, right here. So according to what they say here, it's got outstanding wear protection and becomes tackier and more adhesive when exposed to moisture. Not that this bearing should see lots of moisture, but in the event that it does, because it's underneath all of that, and I mean it's kind of low on the bike, and if you're crossing some kind of a water crossing or something like that, it could potentially have water built up. So this is another old tube, so I'm just going to use a little bit with my finger, being that it's a number 1, it's a little bit thinner, and I'm just going to apply it directly into the bearing like this. Don't have to overdo it because it is sealed. It's not like it's just a bushing and a pin where it's just going to, squeeze out. But I think adding a little bit of this is going to just help the bearing stay cool and also properly lubricated, since everywhere we're going, this thing is spinning. Then we simply just reapply the seal. So this is as much grease I like to put in there, guys. I'm not forcing it through. It's just nice and even all the way around, so that when I put the seal back in place, it's not gonna, make a big mess and cause a problem having that seal stay in position. So let's put it back in and get this particular bearing installed onto the drive shaft. Slide that all the way down. Make sure it's square because it might give you a hard time. There you go. Seats perfectly, followed by the circlip. Just like that. So now that's good. So at this point in time, this bearing is allowed to float a little bit, and I'm going to do just that. I'm going to let it float. I'm going to put the carrier back on, and then once it's bolted down and in place, this is probably the last thing I'm going to tighten are going to be these 2 set screws, because it should have found its happy place, and then it won't put any side load on the bearing. Speaking of which, putting the carriers in. This might be debatable, but I'm going to try something. So because this is metal, the bearing's metal, where it's mounted is also metal, there's no isolator there. So I'm hoping that by maybe using a little bit of plastic or a couple layers of electrical tape in this instance, I'm going to try it. I'm just going to add some tape to the inside of the carrier here on both halves, and I'm also going to put a couple of layers of isolation underneath the bolts in the event that some of that vibration is coming from the drive shaft and it doesn't resonate through the rest of the chassis. Is it going to do anything? I don't know, but I'm here now. It's going to keep everything tight, and hopefully it does something, but it's just a couple of pieces of tape at the very least. It's not going to do anything. If anything, it'll also prevent the metal on metal from spinning, right? Because you don't want this bearing to spin inside the cage or the carrier. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to reinstall all of it in the bike, which is basically the reverse of what we did. But before we do any of that, we also make sure that these splines are greased. Now, Arctic highly recommends a molybdenum, I'm going to see if I can say this, molybdenum grease or moly grease. Normally it's a darker color, and I guess they really specify that because it's supposed to be very good for anti-wear on these splines. So I'm going to go get myself some of that moly grease or molybdenum. Maybe I have to read it. Molybdenum. Yeah, molybdenum. It's going to be the word of the video. Anyways, and then we'll see what it's like all assembled, and hopefully, fingers crossed, the vibration will be gone. Drive shaft is now back in. I got these 2 bolts nice and tight. I opted not to put any kind of isolation underneath this, just because I want to keep everything nice and square. I don't want to raise it or lower it because it seems to be pretty on par. Now, what I need to do is tighten up these set screws. So I'm going to go ahead, put that in there now. Just give it a nice little snug just so it doesn't spin. And same thing here. Click again. The reason I did it now is because I know that this bearing is where it wants to be. I tried going back and forth with the drive shaft. Everything seems much better. Seems nice and tight. I'm going to wipe away this excess of grease here from the boot, and then I can put in the clip. I'm going to try and clock these clips as well so that they are kind of opposite to each other for balance purposes, but I don't really know if it's going to make a huge difference. So again, these are reusable, which is really cool, which I didn't know before. So I'm just going to use a pair of like end nippers, I guess, and hopefully they'll open up wide enough so I can squeeze it tight and not pinch my fingers. Just like that. Beautiful. Actually, that's really nice. So you can see that I put enough grease in there because it's squeezed out from out underneath that clamp. And all I need to do now is the same to the two at the front. Then we can try it again, see if this did anything at all. The front differential is all buttoned up, all the bolts are back together, and there are, in fact, two spacers. There's one on this side and one on the opposite side. So there's a bolt up here, you can't really see it right now. And then there's the other bolt right here. And this has also got a spacer, so one on each side. Don't forget those, because then nothing will be in alignment. Put the bolt up here, grease it up again, of course. And now there's only a few things I need to do. And I want to put the air filter back in because I took it out. And as I was walking around, looking at a few things during the photo shoot I was editing, you know, I was trying to do two things at once here. And I kind of noticed that this is ever so slightly kind of out of alignment. It's not that bad, but it looks like this part, like the engine, is pitched up a little bit, and this is kind of facing up as well. So maybe the reason why I'm seeing some vibration under load. And if that's the case, that would mean that some of these engine mounts are probably starting to collapse, because there's one over here and obviously one on this side as well. So we're going to do that, but first let's put an air filter back in, because that's kind of important. Now I must say, I do like the filtration system that Arctic provides, because it's actually 3 filters. What you see here is like 2, right? So you got your outer layer, your inner layer. I'm replacing this because, well, it's been used really well. So during the cleaning process, I noticed it was starting to come apart. It's not horrible, because this would probably do most of the filtering anyways, but I decided to buy a new one. I'll keep this one as a spare, you know, maybe while the other one's drying. If I want to just get back on a trail real quick, I can use it for the day. But the third filter, like the really early on pre-filter, is on the side of the machine. I'll show you guys after. It's a coarse filter, but it, you know, filters out the major stuff, like, you know, little branches and stuff like that might come through. Then it gets to this filter, then here, then the engine air is nice and clean. So this is the new one, and it doesn't come oiled, so you got to buy either some filter oil. I have already like a bottle of filter oil, and I usually put it in a bag, and I'll swish it around to absorb it. But I'm cheating this time, and I got some spray. So all you need to do is, I'm just going to remove this nice and gently. You don't want to tear this one. And then I'm just going to lightly, I don't think there's a ball in this. No, you just spray it. This is super tacky stuff. I'm going to go all the way around the filter, try and saturate this as well as this one, so that way there, any of the air going through this filter will have to go through this really tacky oil, and hopefully stop that debris making it into the engine. Giant filter going back in. Kind of reminds me of like a vacuum filter for the shop. You know, they're kind of similar. So this should just fall in over the lip, kind of like that. Perfect. Followed by a very large washer and a nut. We're just going to hand tighten this until it's snug so it doesn't come loose, and then reinstall the cover with our nice Arctic Cat logo on it. This is that air intake I was talking about. It's right behind the driver, and there's two intakes in here. One's for the engine, one's for the CVT, and as you can tell, it's filtered. So we took it out, Gabby cleaned it up, she oiled it, so that's all good. The more I think about it, it could be the engine mounts, because it's got some shape to it. It always did from the time I bought it. But anyways, right now we're in two-wheel drive. We're off the ground. Nothing's in the way. Let's go into high gear, if I can go the right way. And let's get it moving here. Feels pretty normal. I can go up to about 17 kilometers an hour without my seatbelt on, which, I mean, in four-wheel drive, the vibration starts almost immediately. So now I'm in four-wheel drive. You heard the actuator. Let's see what happens. It's hard to tell. It feels a little better, but I don't think it's gone. I mean, I think really the only true test would be to take it out for a ride. But it's super cold out there right now, and I don't have it all together. So, So, I don't know, guys. It feels better than before, but it's really hard to tell. I thought I was going to be able to isolate it much easier, seeing it was in the air. But either way, I'm happy that I changed that bearing, because as you guys saw, it was worn out. So, better to do it now than during the season, and then you lose out on a couple of rides. Yeah, you don't want to do that, right? So, I don't know where I'm going to go from here. I think I'm going to keep chasing it, but like I said earlier, it's probably the best way to check it would be to go out for a ride. But it's like minus 25 right now here, and it's windy, and I could get all dressed up like a snowman, but I'm patient enough. I can wait till the spring, try it then. But I'm also kind of impatient because I'd like to figure out what's going on beforehand. I don't want to go out and find out that, hey, it's still there and I did all this work. Could very well be. Comment down below, is there something that you guys would try if you have one of these machines? Is there something that you guys were able to narrow down and say, yep, this is the item, this is what caused that vibration? Like I said, I think it might be the engine mounts at this point causing a little bit of fluctuation and just harmonic balancing and through the whole chassis. I don't know. I can't complain though, because it runs really well, and if it's only in four-wheel drive, which I rarely use, I don't mind it. So I'm going to end the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. I will continue on with this particular tune-up, because the next thing is I have to remove the box in the back. I want to get to the engine because I want to do a valve clearance check. That's a huge item on this machine. And if you guys are around for that video, you'll see what's entailed. It's not like every other machine out there. It's not a simple adjustment if you have to do one, but we're going to cross that bridge when we get there. So again, thank you for watching. I will see you all in the next video.